The sun was just rising over Jerusalem, painting the streets with that soft golden tone that makes everything look almost peaceful, even for a man who hadn't known peace for 38 years. He lay beside the pool of Bethesda, same spot, same prayers, same unanswered hope. People walked past him every day. Some looked with pity, some looked away, but no one stayed long enough to understand what it felt like to be trapped in a body that refused to move. He wasn't always this way. Once, as a young man, he ran through the market streets with his friends, full of life and dreams. But sickness had come slowly, then fiercely, until one day his legs simply stopped obeying him. And from that day on, life had been a long wait. A wait for strength, a wait for help, a wait for a miracle. Bethesda was known for its waters. People believed that when the water stirred, the first person to step in would be healed. And so the lame man waited, year after year, watching others get their chance, while he could barely drag himself an inch. Hope became a painful companion, never fully alive, never fully dead. That morning, something felt different. Not in the water, but in the air. It was quiet, yet expectant, like the world was holding its breath. And then footsteps stopped beside him. Not rushing, not careless, but gentle, intentional. The man looked up. A stranger stood there, calm eyes, dust-covered feet, presence like a quiet storm. He wasn't dressed like a priest. He had no offerings, no words of ritual, but something about him made the world around them fade into silence. Jesus looked at the man lying on the mat, not with pity, but with understanding deeper than words. Then he asked the question no one had ever bothered to ask. "Do you want to be made well?" The lame man blinked, confused. For decades, people asked him what happened to him, how long he'd been there, why he didn't move faster. But no one asked what he wanted. No one asked about the desire that had been buried under disappointment. His voice trembled. "Sir, I have no one to help me. When the water is stirred, someone else goes down before me." He wasn't just talking about the pool. He was talking about life. And for the first time in 38 years, someone was listening. A question that shook his soul. Jesus didn't look away when the man spoke. He didn't judge him. He didn't rush him. He simply stood there, letting the weight of the man's pain settle between them. The lame man had spent half a lifetime believing that healing depended on someone else, someone faster, someone kinder, someone willing to help. And yet here stood a man asking him a question that went deeper than the body, straight to the spirit. "Do you want to be made well?" echoed again in his mind. He had answered with excuses, with memories of disappointment, with the story he repeated to himself for years. But Jesus wasn't asking for explanations. He was asking about desire, about faith that had been buried under layers of hurt. Jesus stepped closer. The lame man felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Possibility. Not hope built on rumors of stirring water. Not hope hanging on the mercy of strangers. But hope that came from a presence strong enough to still the noise in his heart. Jesus' silence was not empty, it was powerful. It was like he was giving the man a moment to face himself, to choose whether he truly believed something new could happen today, or whether he had surrendered to his condition long ago. Around them, life went on. Vendors shouted, children laughed, Pilgrims murmured prayers, but right there, beside a pool that had seen more tears than miracles. Time paused. The man swallowed hard. For the first time, he wasn't watching the water. He was watching him. Jesus finally broke the silence, not with a sermon, not with a ritual, but with a command so simple, so impossible, that it felt like heaven itself was speaking into earth. Rise! The word hit the man's heart like thunder. Rise? His legs were useless, his muscles forgotten. Rise was a command meant for other people with strength, with balance, with life in their bones. But Jesus wasn't finished. Take up your mat and walk. Walk. That word felt like a dream he had buried long ago. Jesus said it with no hesitation, no doubt, no second guessing. He spoke as if the man's healing wasn't a possibility, it was already a reality. And for the first time in 38 years, the lame man felt something deep inside him shift. Not in his legs, not yet, but in his faith. The question had shaken his soul. Now the command would test it. First shiver of miracle. For a moment, nothing happened. The world remained exactly as it was. Busy voices, warm sunlight, the faint rippling of Bethesda's waters. The lame man lay still on his mat, staring at Jesus, unsure whether he had misheard or whether he was standing on the edge of the impossible. His heart pounded, not from fear, from awakening. He looked down at his own legs, thin, lifeless, almost foreign to him. Legs that had betrayed him, legs that had defined him, legs that had carried 38 years of waiting. He tried to move his toes, a habit he repeated 1,000 times before. But this time something was different. A spark. It was small at first, like a whisper beneath the skin, a tingling he hadn't felt since his youth. He froze, afraid that even breathing might break the moment. Then the tingling spread, slow at first, then rushing, climbing through his ankles, crawling up his calves like fire catching in dry grass. He gasped. His fingers dug into the mat. His body trembled. He had forgotten what strength felt like, and now it was flooding him, wave after wave, filling muscles long asleep, waking nerves long silent. Jesus didn't move. He simply watched with calm certainty, like someone observing what he already knew would happen. The man pressed his palms to the ground. His arms shook, but not from weakness, from disbelief. He pushed, just a little. His back lifted. His hips followed. His legs, those dead, abandoned limbs, responded. He wasn't rising by physical strength alone. He was rising by faith. And then, for the first time in 38 long, painful years, he stood. The world blurred. His breath caught in his chest. He looked down at his feet, steady, balanced, alive. He had dreamed of this moment so many nights, then forced himself to forget it to survive the disappointment. But here it was, real and undeniable. Jesus nodded, almost like a father watching a child take his first step. "Take up your mat," he said again. The man bent down. No struggle, no collapse. He picked up the mat that once carried him, the mat that symbolized every year of helplessness. Now he held it under his arm like a trophy of grace. Walk, and he did. One step, then another, each one a miracle echoing through the streets of Jerusalem. He wasn't just walking, he was breaking free from a lifetime of chains. Whispers through the streets, The man walked slow at first, almost afraid the miracle might disappear if he moved too quickly. But with each step, confidence grew. Muscles that had forgotten their purpose now remembered. Bones aligned, balance returned. His stride steadied until he was moving not like a man learning again, but like someone who was finally stepping into the life he was always meant to live. People turned, first in curiosity, then in disbelief. They recognized him, the man who lay by the pool of Bethesda every single day. The man who never stood, never walked, never even shifted more than a few inches at a time. To see him upright was like seeing a stone float on water. Voices erupted. Isn't that him? How is he walking? Who helped him? Did he touch the water? But he didn't stop to answer, not yet. His eyes were locked on the path ahead, and in his heart, a quiet storm of gratitude rolled through him. He felt the wind brush against his face, the ground press beneath his feet. Sensations he thought he would never feel again. Every step was a conversation between his body and heaven. Behind him, the whispers grew louder. Some followed, trying to understand. Some spread the rumor through the markets. Some ran to the temple leaders, breathless with shock. But the healed man wasn't listening to the crowds. He was listening to something deeper, something sacred that still echoed inside him. Rise, take up your mat, walk. He held the mat tightly under his arm, not as a reminder of suffering, but as a testimony that suffering no longer owned him. Every time someone stared, his heart whispered, "Look what the Lord has done." He didn't know where Jesus had gone. Miracles often leave quietly, letting their impact speak louder than their presence. But the man absolutely knew that this wasn't just healing. This was calling. This was purpose. This was God rewriting a story the world had already closed the book on. When he reached the temple entrance, a place he was often carried past, but never able to walk into, he paused. His breath shook with emotion, not from weakness, from overwhelming thankfulness. Today, he didn't need to be carried. Today, he walked in with strength, with dignity, with a miracle under his arm. And Jerusalem kept whispering, because word of Jesus was spreading like wildfire. The questions in the temple courtyard was alive with its usual. Rhythm priests preparing offerings, families praying, merchants speaking in hushed tones. But the moment the healed man stepped inside, the rhythm broke. Faces turned. Conversations stopped. It was as if the entire temple exhaled in disbelief. People knew him. For decades, he had been part of their landscape, always at the gate, always on the mat, always waiting. To see him walk through the entrance with steady feet and a lifted head felt like witnessing an ancient prophecy being fulfilled. He tried to melt into the crowd, but miracles don't allow anonymity. Before long, a group of temple leaders approached him. Their eyes were sharp, trained to spot anything unusual. And this man standing tall with his mat under his arm was beyond unusual. One of them stepped forward. "Isn't this the man who was lame for 38 years? The man nodded, smiling gently, humility softening his expression. Another leader's voice cut sharply. "Who healed you? Who told you to carry your mat? Today is the Sabbath." The healed man froze for a moment. It was true, carrying anything on the Sabbath was against their strict traditions. But he had spent so many Sabbath days lying helpless, longing for a moment like this. How could carrying the symbol of his freedom be wrong? He answered simply, "The man who healed me told me, 'Take up your mat and walk.'" Their eyes narrowed. What man? What is his name? He opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't know. Jesus had slipped into the crowd so quietly, so humbly, that the healed man hadn't even asked his name. All he had was the memory of his voice, calm, commanding, filled with authority. I don't know who he was," the man admitted softly. The leaders exchanged glances filled not with wonder, but with concern, even irritation. Miracles threatened their control, their traditions, their interpretations of what God could or could not do. One of them stepped closer. "Find him. Tell us who he is." The healed man lowered his head respectfully, but inside, his heart was steady. He wasn't afraid, not anymore. Something in him knew that the one who healed him didn't need defending. His powers spoke louder than any argument. He stepped away from the leaders, walking deeper into the courtyard. Each footstep echoed a question in his mind. Who was this man who changed my life? And though he didn't know it yet, Jesus was already looking for him. The second meeting, the man wandered through the temple courtyard, still holding his mat, still trying to understand. The whirlwind that had swept through his life in a single morning. For years, he had dreamed of simply standing. Yet now he walked freely, as if he had always belonged among the strong and healthy. But one thing remained unresolved. Who was the man who healed him? As he moved between pillars and prayer corners, his mind replayed the moment over and over. The steady eyes, the calm voice, the authority that didn't shout but shook the earth with quiet power. He didn't know his name, but the memory felt like a flame burning in his spirit. Then he saw him. Jesus stood near one of the inner courts, watching people with a gentleness that felt almost supernatural. He wasn't surrounded by guards or followers. He wasn't asking for attention. He simply stood there, present, peaceful, as if the chaos of the world couldn't touch him. The healed man felt his heart leap, not in fear, in recognition. He walked toward Jesus, weaving through the crowd until he stood just a few feet away. Jesus turned to him and smiled. It wasn't the smile of a stranger. It was the smile of someone who already knew everything about him, his pain, his years of waiting, his fears, his hopes. Jesus spoke first. "See, you are well again." The words washed over him like warm water. It wasn't just his statement, it was a celebration, a reminder, a truth sealed by heaven. But then Jesus' voice grew deeper, carrying a weight that reached into the man's soul. "Do not return to the life of sin, so that something worse does not happen to you." The man swallowed. Those words weren't a warning of punishment, they were an invitation to transformation. Jesus wasn't just healing his legs. He was healing his life, his habits, his choices, his inner wounds. The miracle wasn't meant to end at the pool, it was meant to begin a new journey. The man nodded slowly, feeling the gravity of Jesus' message. He had been given more than mobility. He had been given mercy, purpose, a second chance. "Thank you," the man whispered, emotion tightening his voice. Jesus placed a gentle hand on his shoulder just for a moment, then stepped back and walked toward the outer court. disappearing into the crowd as quietly as he had arrived. The man stood there, breathing deeply, his heart steady, his future open. He finally knew the name of the one who healed him, and now he carried more than a mat. He carried a calling, the name that shook the leaders. The healed man stepped out of the inner court, still absorbing Jesus' words, still feeling that gentle touch on his shoulder. The temple air felt different now, no longer intimidating, no longer a place he watched from the outside. For the first time in his life, he walked these grounds as a whole man. But the leaders were waiting. They spotted him almost immediately, gathering around him like shadows stretching long across the courtyard. Their voices were steady, but their eyes held a sharp edge. "Well," one of them demanded, "did you find him? Who told you to carry your mat on the Sabbath?" The man didn't flinch. Not today. The fear that once ruled him had lost its power the moment Jesus spoke life into his legs. He looked each leader in the eyes, then answered with quiet certainty. It was Jesus. A ripple moved through the group. Disbelief, frustration, alarm. The name hit them like a stone, thrown into still water. Jesus, the teacher from Nazareth, the healer who performed wonders they couldn't explain, the man who spoke with authority they couldn't match. Jesus, one repeated, almost spitting the name. He healed you on the Sabbath? The healed man nodded again. For a moment, the leaders whispered among themselves, angry, unsettled, threatened. They spoke of broken traditions, of challenges to their authority, of how this miracle wasn't proof of holiness, but of rebellion. They twisted a miracle into a violation, but the healed man stood there unaffected. He couldn't unsee what he had seen. He couldn't unfeel the strength in his legs. He couldn't unknow the one who restored him. One leader stepped close, his voice low and cold. "You do understand what you're saying? This Jesus defies our laws. He acts as if the Sabbath belongs to him." The healed man felt no fear. Instead, he remembered Jesus' eyes, those eyes that held compassion deeper than rules, deeper than rituals. He remembered the command to rise, the command that didn't bind, but freed. He took a calm breath. "All I know," he said, "is that I was unable to walk, and now I walk because of him." The leaders stared, searching for any hesitation in his voice. They found none. The man turned and walked away, each step a silent defiance, each stride a testimony that no argument, no rule, no tradition could erase what Jesus had done. His miracle was unshakable, and the name of Jesus was now unstoppable. The storm around the miracle. The man walked out of the temple courtyard, feeling the tension he left behind, like a storm cloud still rumbling in the distance. What should have been a moment of pure celebration, a man healed after 38 years, had somehow become a controversy, not because of the miracle, but because of the man who performed it. The name Jesus had shaken the temple like thunder as the healed man made his way through the streets. The whispers around him grew louder, swirling like dust in the wind. "Did you hear? The lame man walks. Jesus healed him on the Sabbath. Who is this Jesus?" Some spoke with awe, some spoke with suspicion, and some with fear. Jerusalem had seen teachers come and go, prophets rise and fade, but no one moved with the authority Jesus carried so effortlessly. He didn't just heal bodies, he challenged systems. He didn't just restore limbs. He restored hope in a world that tried to live without it. The healed man felt the weight of this truth more clearly with every step. He reached a busy marketplace and paused near a vendor selling figs. People approached him, some touching his arm, some kneeling to see his legs, some simply staring with tears in their eyes. "Is it true?" a woman asked softly. "You can walk now," he nodded, lifting his mat slightly. "Jesus made me whole." Her eyes filled instantly. "May God bless him," she whispered. But not everyone welcomed the miracle. A man from the temple approached, his jaw tight, his tone sharp. "You're misleading people," he snapped. "No one should be honoring someone who breaks the Sabbath." The healed man straightened his back. Once, he would have looked away, apologized, shrunk into silence. But that was the man on the mat. This was the man who could stand. He didn't break anything. He said calmly, "He healed me. If the Sabbath belongs to God, then what better day is there for mercy?" The man scoffed and stormed away, but others nodded. Some even smiled. The healed man realized something important in that moment. His miracle was becoming a message, not just for him, but for everyone watching. And somewhere in the city, Jesus continued moving quietly, healing quietly, loving loudly. While the storm around his name intensified, the man clutched his mat, took a deep breath, and kept walking. He wasn't just part of a miracle anymore. He was part of a movement, the signs they couldn't ignore. While the healed man walked through the streets, carrying the mat that once carried him, the leaders gathered in a private chamber inside the temple. Their voices were hushed, not because they sought peace, but because they feared the truth growing louder in the city. Reports kept pouring in. A blind man claims Jesus touched his eyes. Crowds say he teaches like no other. People are following him. And now this lame man walks. The leaders paced, troubled. Miracles were supposed to be rare, controlled, recognizable. But Jesus moved outside their lines. He touched the broken, reached the forgotten, loved the unimportant, and that frightened them. "No ordinary man speaks as he does," one whispered. "No ordinary man heals like this," another added. "He's becoming a threat." But while they tried to contain him, Jesus was already steps ahead, moving with gentleness, speaking with authority, and healing with compassion that made rules seem small. Meanwhile, the healed man found a quiet spot near the shade of a stone archway. He sat down not out of weakness, but simply to rest and reflect. His legs felt strong, his heart even stronger. He could still hear Jesus' words echoing inside him. "See, you are well again. Do not return to a life of sin." The miracle wasn't meant to be a moment. It was meant to be a direction. As he watched the people passing by, he noticed something surprising. They weren't just staring at him anymore. They were inspired, encouraged. Some even touched his arm as they walked past, murmuring, "Your healing gives us hope." He had never imagined that his suffering, his long years of waiting, could become someone else's strength. But here it was happening right before his eyes. A group of temple apprentices approached him hesitantly. "Tell us," one asked, "what was it like when he healed you?" The man smiled softly, searching for words big enough to describe a moment that had reshaped his life. It felt, he paused, like God saw me, really saw me. And for the first time, I wasn't invisible. The apprentices exchanged glances, moved, humbled, unsettled. The miracle couldn't be denied. The signs couldn't be ignored. Jesus wasn't just a healer. He was a revelation. And the healed man realized something powerful. The world was changing, and he had witnessed the very spark that began it. The walk that never ended. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Jerusalem glowed with a soft, amber light. The healed man walked through the city one last time that day, each step steady, each breath full, each heartbeat echoing the miracle that had rewritten his destiny. He passed the pool of Bethesda, the place where he had spent nearly 4 decades hoping for something to change. People gathered around him again, expecting a story, a lesson, a secret. He looked at the pool, then at his legs, and finally at the crowd. "I waited here for years," he said gently, "for the water to move, for someone to help me, for life to notice me. But healing didn't come from the pool. It came from the one who walked toward me." His eyes softened as he remembered Jesus' voice, the calm authority, the compassion, the truth wrapped in every word. "He found me," he continued. "He saw me, and he didn't ask me to crawl faster or try harder. He asked if I wanted to be made well." The crowd listened, breathing in every word. And when I finally believed even a little, he did the rest. He looked around at the faces watching him, the sick, the weary, the curious, the skeptical. For years he had been the one looking up at others. Now he stood among them as a living witness. "It wasn't just my legs he healed," he said quietly. "It was my life." He lifted the mat one last time, not as a burden, but as a symbol. "This used to define me, but now it's just a reminder of where grace found me." As he turned to leave, he felt no bitterness toward the years of suffering. Instead, he felt gratitude because those years made the miracle shine even brighter. Meanwhile, in another part of Jerusalem, Jesus continued his work, healing, teaching, comforting. The storm around his name grew louder, but so did the stories of lives transformed. He wasn't just mending bodies, he was awakening faith. The healed man stepped into the evening streets with a peace he had never known. He didn't know what tomorrow held, but he knew who held tomorrow, and that was enough. His walk didn't end with his healing. It began with it, and for the rest of his days, every step he took whispered the same truth. When Jesus speaks, even the broken rise. When Jesus calls, even the forgotten walk. And his journey, once trapped beside a pool, became a testimony that lived on long after the day the miracle happened.